Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, the Bhagavad Gita is the essential and most important book that presents, at least in encapsulated or in essential introductory form, the entire range of spiritual philosophy. And it is spoken directly by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or it is spoken by God, the Supreme Absolute Truth. So, by that, it is extremely valuable. If I want to know someone, instead of asking someone who knows them secondhand, I don't know, maybe they don't have such a good relationship with that person, maybe they'll give me a description with like a slanted kind of, you know, you might hear from, oh, he's a good person, he's a bad person, but when Krishna speaks directly about himself, or you go to the person that you want to know about and they tell you about themselves, that's why is it that when we want to, you know, someone who is in the news either gloriously or ingloriously, if you get the person's version, I'm going to interview, what, you know, you said this and what happened here and this and that, that's very valuable than somebody saying, we have heard from an anonymous source that such and such. So therefore, and then another thing is someone says something and then the media machine or the news machine puts a slant on it for whatever particular reason. So the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes in the preface, in 1968, the Bhagavad Gita was finally published by the Macmillan Company as incomplete. Many spiritual seeking people, their first experience, mine included, of the Bhagavad Gita was reading a Penguin Classic, little paperback, very thin, and it just had some of the cherry-picked verses placed in there, no purports, and the cover had like a picture of a, you know, like a Vishnu form that was in a museum somewhere. So therefore, Prabhupada, he pointed out that these interpreted Bhagavad Gitas, and especially since the time of the famous American naturalists, Henry David Thoreau, Ralph Waldo Emerson, so Bhagavad Gita has been known in the United States at least since the 1840s. Not one person became a devotee of Krishna, not one. Some 50 years later, Vivekananda spoke something about Vedic philosophy with his own interpretation at the 1893 Parliament of Religions, I think that's what it was called, in Chicago. Anything come from that? But when Prabhupada presented the Bhagavad Gita as it is, we want as it is, not as it should be, ought to be, as it might be, as it could be, as I'd like it to be, as it is, complete. And because we are part and parcel of Krishna, one description that's standard in the Vedic literature to help people understand their qualitative oneness with Krishna. Qualitative oneness is different than quantitative oneness, which is a terrible mistake and actually a great offense in one's attempt to understand the personality of Godhead, likened unto a drop of water taken from the ocean. Chemically, it's the same as the whole ocean body, but quantitatively, there's no comparison. So that qualitative scientific oneness, you're a person. What is a person? Very complicated, very nuanced. Why is it such a terrible thing to take a life? Prabhupada had a book presented
where discussions debunking the scientific speculation that life comes from chemicals. Life comes from life, and life comes from God, the supreme life, the source of all life. We are spiritual, likened unto the example that this body is a vehicle and we, the soul, are the passenger. Why do you need a vehicle? To transport yourself a certain distance from one place to another, a certain terrain. Say you want to go to Miami. You could drive there, but it'd be easier to fly, so we choose an airplane. So this human body is the most direct and best facility. There's so many different species of life. There's aquatics, there's mammals, there's reptiles, there's amphibians, birds, beasts, etc., dogs, cats. But none of those species can allow one to really intelligently understand the science of God and ultimately understand that God is Krishna and that he is the original person, he's the supreme person. Actually, we're reading the first verse of very important chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita, there is so much depth and ascending categorical nuance to it. But basically, we'll say here there are 18 chapters. Chapters 1 through 6 basically are the foundational understanding of how to understand yourself as spiritual. Matter and spirit are two energies, and in this material world, we are in between the two. So by identifying ourselves with this material body, which is where all types of prejudice, racism, and casteism, and all this other illusory conceptions, it's illusion ultimately, because on the spiritual platform, those things don't exist. Can be cured. People want to have peace. They want to have, and even they founded this country, and what was the maxim? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, for which all men, they should have said all people, men and women, everyone, men and women, are created equal. So we strive to make a society, our governance, our, the distribution of all necessary goods, commodities, and services, the facility for everyone to be engaged in their proper occupational duty and to do it joyfully, not begrudgingly. So everyone with a material body, they have to work. There has to be some type of activity. There's a chapter in the Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga, chapter 3, and then another chapter, 5, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. That your work, what you do for sustaining your body and soul together, that includes food, shelter, regulated gratification of the senses, family life, taking care of children, everything is done in such a way that instead of becoming burned out, disillusioned, pessimistic, fried, quite to the opposite. You become more enlivened, more enlightened, more happy on the transcendental spiritual platform, which is the real you and the real everyone else and the real self. There's one statement by Krishna in the third chapter, Karma Yoga, be thou happy by this yagna. Yagna is translated in different ways, but sacrifice, but it actually means activities that you do to please the Supreme. Krishna, as the Supreme Person, he's the very soul of your soul, the very self of your self. He's your dearmost friend and well-wisher, and unlike relationships in this material world, which have a beginning, a middle, and an end, even the best relationship where there's mutual understanding and there's no hint of manipulation or betrayal or narcissistic kind of gaslighting, etc., the laws of nature, we have to die. For one who is born, death is certain. And what most people, it's hard to understand. For one who has died, rebirth is certain. That is the proper, having that understanding will satisfy the need for why there's so many different statuses of life, so many different types of desires, so many different types of endeavors. Because the soul is given in the next life a chance to continue the desires that they cultivated in the previous life. But just like how much money you have in your pocket, it's how much you saved and how much you spent. You know, what's that old Beatles song? Money can't buy me love. So the point is that you're trying to fulfill your desires to achieve happiness, but you are either put in an advantageous situation due to your previous punya, that's good activities, like any reasonable good person would want to do good for others. And the ultimate good is to help people to achieve complete enlightenment and self-realization. There's a saying, from spiritual well-being comes all needed varieties of material well-being. Everything. So if you become fully Krishna conscious, you solve all the problems of life. And that verse that Krishna says, be thou happy by this sacrifice or activity, because by its performance, all desirable things will be bestowed upon you. Like people have an inkling. We're harming the planet. Mother Nature is not happy. I don't want to open Pandora's box, like chemtrails and putting harmful chemicals in our food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or, undue mining, or Mother Earth becomes unhappy. And she is the most loyal and obedient and loving servant of Krishna. And if people are godless, or people are utilizing the property and facility of the Father, the products of this world, his nature. He says, this divine nature, this nature is my nature. You can read in other literature, the recommended literature after Bhagavad Gita is described as the cream of all Vedic literatures, the Srimad Bhagavatam, that Mother Earth was distressed to see so much godless and the word demoniac activity taking place. And she, along with the chief demigod, let's say you own a big corporation and you're the owner, but your chief person who you trust everything, and he has so many other people under him, departments, etc., etc., that person is Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma and Mother Earth, Goddess Bhumi. Bhumi in Sanskrit means earth. Like we say of Srila Prabhupada, Bhutale. He's very dear to Lord Krishna on this earth. Why? Because he is spreading and teaching the pure message of the Supreme Lord. That makes him, he's most dear to everyone. One who is in love with Krishna becomes dear to every living being, and every living being becomes dear to him. There's no distinction between this person or that person, pious, impious, good or bad. For the pure devotee, everyone is a candidate to receive the highest good. There's one saying, let me not do anything but wish the highest good for my worst enemy. So, be thou happy by this yajna, because it will bestow upon you all desirable things. And what we need and what we desire is basically three: bhukti, mukti, and siddhi. Bhukti means comfortable living in this world. And we see how we become so callous. City like New York, people are lying in the street, sleeping in the subway, they have no shelter. And the result of that is terrible. How could you, mental illness. And in a place where there is God consciousness, there's no such thing as homelessness. There's no such thing as being hungry. There's no such thing. The reign of Ramachandra, Krishna's incarnation to show how to be the perfect ruler. No one was hungry. No one was lonely. No one was shelterless. There was no thievery. There was so much in abundance that theft was unheard of. You could, maybe there's some places still in the world where it's like a quiet little hamlet or a village people leave the key to their car in the ignition and don't even lock the door. You know, I was in such a place and I locked the door at night and I was chastised because the neighbor would come in the morning and because the door was locked, you know, there's no, so like that. And even further, there was no death for those who did not want it. Bhakti doesn't mean that, you know, have a night on the town and get drunk in the East Village, you know, right? Oh Lord, won't you buy me a night on the town? I'm counting on you, Lord. Please. There's a song anyway, but right. So bhakti means regulated sense gratification. There's a saying, you eat to live, not that you live to eat. You know, all material bodies require, you know, eating, sleeping, for most people a facility for proper family life, and defense. Defense, you know, not just, you know, gun carry permit or whatever, but defense means it's cold. So you should have heat in your building, you should have warm clothes. Defense means that I want clean water, I want clean food. And everything now, you want good food, it has to be organic. I saw one kind of slogan or saying from somebody who grew up in the 1950s or 60s. When I was a kid, we just simply called it food, you know. So that's defense. But beyond that, what we really need is mukti. We want freedom from repeated birth and death, disease, and old age. I've seen in India very godly people who've lived a very incredible life. They're like 120, 130 years old, seriously. And they're moving and doing, and they look like they're people in their 40s. Just incredible. They just had Mahakumbh, or Kumbh Mela, in what was previously called Allahabad by the conquering Mughals. But it's the original name of this holy place, the confluence of the Ganges, Yamuna, and Saraswati, is Prayagraj. I just heard the realization of Keshava Maharaj, a very wonderful, fairly young sannyasi from London, and he said that the name India, Bharat, B-H-A, it's connected to Bhav. Bhav means the spiritual emotion of the pure soul in pure love of God. That's what India is, the chosen place where Krishna appeared, and all of the avatars, incarnations, and still to date there are many great saintly persons who live in in many sacred, secluded, holy places. And it's good in one sense that many of these sacred and secluded holy places have not become so secluded anymore, and they become kind of like spiritual Disneylands. And you know, you want to be, but Prabhupada termed that we become victims of our own success, that he promoted Krishna consciousness all over the world, and all over the world, people have an intense and strong desire to visit and even to reside in these holy places, which are of great increased spiritual potency. And ultimately, back to this point, if you have complete spiritual self-realization and pure devotion, you automatically have mukti and bhukti. You automatically have liberation. Just like if you have $1 million, you don't have to worry about, you know, spending $10 to get something to eat. You know, it's so for a pure devotee, liberation is following you, begging to offer her services. You're free. And ultimately, all fearfulness and anxiety comes from not knowing what will happen at the time of death. And it's described, death is a test for all that you've done in your life. It's like the final exam. So the pure devotee, you know, the pure devotee is studying regulatedly. It's called siddhi. Siddhi is the perfection of sadhana. Practice makes perfection. We even have that saying, right? So not like, you know, you party all, you know, you rock and roll all day and party every night, and then you hope to pass the exam. You have to study regulatedly. You know, you can't have a cheat sheet. You can't look over somebody's shoulder or something, or have some type of clicking system where somebody's like Morse coding you the answer. Krishna's not going to be cheated like that. So, but it's one and the same. Sadhana and prema, it's the same devotional service. And the miracle is that the same activity of chanting Hare Krishna, reading authorized literatures, and behaving. Prabhupada was one time asked, how will you know who is a pure devotee on the ultimate platform? He didn't say he'd be crying, he'd be exhibiting otherworldly ecstatic symptoms. He could do a miracle, he could reach behind your ear and a big apple would come out. Actually, Prabhupada returned to his hometown, Calcutta, in 1970, and for his contemporaries, he was like hometown boy made good. He was like the hero. So one of his old friends came and talked about a yogi who's making a sensation. He could reach behind your ear and from nowhere produce a juicy, like Macintosh apple, some type of that you couldn't get in India, like really. And Prabhupada, he went, wow, that's amazing. Just like I went to America and I had no money. I just had a pair of cartels, and I went and sat down under a tree, where are the pictures, in Tompkins Square Park, and I chanted Hare Krishna. And some very nice young boys and girls, American boys and girls, came, and they wanted to chant Hare Krishna, and they wanted to learn about Krishna. And then we started a center. And some of those boys and girls, this is in 1966, 1967, there's a much bigger youth scene in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. So we should go over there. And Prabhupada went and took an invitation. He came here on a boat, but this was his first airplane trip, Pan Am Airlines from JFK to San Francisco. Right in the summer of love, 1967. They had just had the Human Be-In with Allen Ginsberg and Timothy Leary and other luminaries like the Grateful Dead and other rock bands. A joyful gathering of the tribes for a joyful powwow and peace dance. So then Prabhupada is invited into this milieu, and they have and it's just, anyway, there's a whole story in and of itself. And then some of those devotees, they went to other cities and opened up temples, and then some, who were friends with some of the people in the rock scene, we went and met the Beatles, George Harrison, and we started a set, and this is 1970, and so now, in just 4 years, we have 50 centers, and in all of those centers, we have so many apples. So whose mysticism is greater? You heard that story before? Well, there you go. And so beyond mukti is siddhi, prema bhakti. There is a beautiful song glorifying the pure devotee that we sing daily in the temple, written by a very great saintly person, Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who was chosen to be the maintainer of the pure disciplic succession. He appeared in this world the very year that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar, left this world. We should never disparage, I wish I was born sooner, I would have been, because Krishna has a destiny for you, and that we have to maintain the purity of spiritual knowledge over time. Because this material world, it's a sorrowful place because everyone has to leave this world, has to leave their body, and the world is always in a state of imperfection because the older people have wisdom and experience, and by the bewilderment of the illusory energy, younger people, what do I need to listen to these old people? I know what I'm doing. I'm young, I'm pretty, I'm handsome, I got dexterous, agile senses, I'll figure it out, We'll sing the song, I'll do it my way, And so, and when you do figure it out, then you're departing this planet. But the disciplic succession is maintained that all the wisdom of the previous spiritual masters and teachers and all those pure devotees, they are present. There is a saying, he reasons ill who say that pure devotees, Vaishnavas, die while they are still living in sound. The sound of Krishna, the sound of the Vedas is eternal. It is beyond time, place, and circumstance. What is that? In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada dedicates to his spiritual master. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. And even Bhagavad Gita, well, this was spoken 5,000 years ago. So what is its value now? Like you said, you go to a like Harvard Divinity School or any like big high ranked university, they'll study, well, that was then anthropologically study it. But if you read the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna will be speaking to you directly in accord with your particular circumstances and will give you all encouragement to ascertain your correct path and make the right decision. Arjuna, the hero of the Battle of Kurukshetra, who's Krishna's dearmost friend, who was chosen to be the hearer of the Bhagavad Gita, he saw the aftermath of Krishna's departure from the planet. And he was so much distraught. I don't want to rouse up any sorrowful feelings, but if we've ever had the experience of a very, very dear friend and loved one depart this world, that grieving process is very, very painful. So Arjuna, he was so much aggrieved by Krishna's departure from this world. Of course, Krishna, he just transferred back to the spiritual world, where Arjuna was destined to go also. But there's a period between when our dearly beloved depart and where our turn comes, however many years it is. So he is telling this to his older brother Yudhishthir, who's also on the same caliber of love and devotion for Krishna. Now I am attracted to those teachings imparted by Krishna in the mood of great love and friendship, Bhagavad Gita, on the battle of Kurukshetra. Such instructions can relieve the burning heart in all times, places, and circumstances. And Arjuna, he's taking the position of us, that we are in this, we have our own battle of Kurukshetra, we have our own life to lead, and we have to achieve perfection in this life. We need to have that assurance that I will not come back to this world of repeated birth, death, disease, and old age again. Bahunam janmanamante gyanavam prapadyante. Krishna says in the 19th verse of the 7th chapter. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Turn the pages. Da-da-da. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities, pure personalism, in spiritual life, and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the personality of Godhead and surrenders unto him. Surrender doesn't mean like put him up, put your hands in the air, give me all your money.
No.
It's the ultimate fulfillment of all desire. Krishna is known as Satya Sankalpa. He is the fulfiller of everyone's desire since time immemorial. And Prabhupada goes on further to explain in this purport. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, and that he is the cause of all causes, and thus this material manifestation is not independent of him. He realizes that this material world is a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness. Janmati asyayataha. There's nothing that we can see. There's nothing that we can experience. There's nothing that exists if it doesn't have its original pure origin in the personality of Godhead. So hence, Krishna's personal abode, his personal realm, is by far more desirable, variegated, free from inebriety than this world. And the chanting of Hare Krishna reveals that to us. People say, what are you doing this for? They're bewildered, like, why aren't you, experiencing the variety of this world? And I developed an answer over the years. So why are you doing this? And I said, well, why are you doing what you're doing? And then I say, well, I hope you're doing what you're doing because you want to be doing it. Yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing because I want to be doing it. Well, so am I. So that gives them a little food for thought. There's a verse Krishna says also in Bhagavad Gita, that which is night for the self-realized soul. We're not interested in the gross hedonistic gratification that leads to the bewilderment of intelligence and continues and strengthens the chain of karma. Happiness in this world practically almost invariably means you're causing suffering to other living entities on one level or another. Whereas that which is the time of awakening for the self-realized is night for the conditioned soul. Even Prabhupada had a little pamphlet commissioned here in 26 Second Avenue, Who is Crazy? So now, some 60 years later, Krishna consciousness and spiritual things in general, I remember 1966, I was 7 years old. There was no such thing as vegetarianism, practically speaking. And if you were, are you crazy? You have to eat meat to get your, protein, or you think that you're like some type of strange person. You need to go to a psychiatrist, and so many other things that are now standard and very accepted, and what to speak of sought after, and even commercially very, right? A vegetarian restaurant, a good one, what to speak of organic, Ayurvedic, you're going to have to pay big, big money for that. Whereas you can get the same thing in India for like a few rupees. But over here, so back then, to appear in public in devotional clothes, shaved head, and tilak, it was, people would heckle you, Hey, Buddha, you forgot to change your pajamas, So many other things. But now it's very, very accepted. He realized that this material world is to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and he realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus he thinks of everything and everyone in relation to Vasudeva or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such Krishna conscious persons, surrendered souls, are very, very rare. Srila Prabhupada exhibited that to such a degree. There was a saying back in when Prabhupada came here. Prabhupada was 69, 70 years old. So he was 40 years plus this saying, never trust anyone over 30. Okay, you don't have to raise your hand, but who here is over the age of 30? Okay, all right. So you're untrustworthy. So Prabhupada was double that plus 10 years, and people younger than that just gave their whole life to him. One realization of one devotee, she was like a hippie and had a really bad experience with that lifestyle, and just gladly, just like, like a refugee making it to the Allied lines and getting through the barbed wire, and I've been liberated, I've been rescued. Oh my God, kissing the liberators. And she said that it was clear that I had never been loved before by anyone in my entire life. When I went and met Srila Prabhupada, I could understand that he not only wanted good for me, but he wanted the ultimate best, that which I couldn't even understand what is desirable or what is best. So that Narottam Das Thakur says, from him ecstatic prema, pure love of God, emanates, by which ignorance is destroyed. Sri Guru Charane Rati, Ase Uttamagati, by taking shelter of such a pure devotee, Uttam Gati. Uttam means topmost, and Gati means destination. One is brought to the highest destination by which all desires are fulfilled. It's alluded here, the great mistake of impersonalism. You go to our temple and you see the beautiful form of the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda. And by sadhana and proper lifestyle and practice, you will see that they are the source of all beauty. And gaining their pleasure and their admittance into their entourage is the highest. There is the standard glorification of Sri Sri Radha Govinda, the presiding deities of New York City. Whatever New York City, whatever the big bad apple can dish out, the supreme Ishvar and Ishvari, they can not only match it, but raise you. They are the controllers of this city, the supreme Ishvar and Ishvari. Dibyat Brindaranya, Kalpajumada, Srimad Ratnagara, Singhasana Sto, Srimad Radha, Srila Govinda Devo, Prastalabi, Savyamano, Smarami. In a temple of jewels, underneath the desire trees, the trees in Vrindavan can fulfill all your desires. Just like I like to walk in Central Park because I'm in this concrete jungle, this claustrophobic, dark, this time of year, place. So those trees, seeing nature, thank goodness they decided to do that in the 1850s, because even over the years, people want to grab, what is all this wasted land? We could have real estate. We could become billionaires, How valuable is acreage of the parks? So in a temple of jewels, underneath these desire trees of Vrindavan, seated upon an illustrious golden jewel-bedecked throne, are the divine couple who are served by their most confidential, loving associates. We beg to offer our respects unto them, and somehow or another, in some day, that I can be admitted into their association, which is everything we want. And so that very same Sri Sri Radha Govinda have made their appearance in this age as the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that same Narottam Das Thakur, who was the carrier of the pure Sampradaya after the departure of Lord Chaitanya, he has written in one of his books, he has a beautiful book called Prema Bhakti Chandrika, which means the moonlight of loving devotion. Know that the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the divine names of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna, is the supreme spiritual meditation. And the love that the residents of Vrindavan, that's Krishna's personal abode, have for Krishna, for Radha and Krishna, is the true reality and the perfect explanation of the full range of the absolute truth. Absolute truth means every other truth contained within. Always strive to attain that love. So therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna in so many diversified ways, it's our only sadhana. There's 4 things that we need to do to regulate our corporal existence here. No meat, fish, or eggs, no intoxication, no illicit sex. That means it's for a purpose. Many people in this day and age might not like to hear it, but the truth is, and Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, sex life according to religious principles, that I am. What is the natural result of union between a man or a woman, let's say between the sperm and the ovum? Krishna, through his agency, he places a soul at the time of conception. And that is done very, very scientifically. And therefore, it's described that if the mother and father are godly people, then a very advanced person was either meant to get a chance to complete. Just like maybe you leave school, take a year off, you've done like 90%, you have to come back and complete. But you're not like an undergraduate, you've already done. That's another benefit in spiritual life. Materially, unless you complete it, it's all lost. Or at the time of death, it's all taken away. And the money that you earned illegally in this world is your passage money to hell from the bad karma. But anything you do spiritually, Krishna keeps it in an infallible, ever interest increasing, dividend producing bank account. And in the next life, you pick up exactly from where you last off. And even better than that, a pure devotee, Nitya Siddha, coming from the spiritual world, he has to take a birth in this world. He can't just like appear out of nothing. So that is very purposeful. Eat fish or eggs, intoxication, illicit sex, no gambling. But the one thing that we do, which makes everything else perfect and complete, is focus on the holy name of Krishna. Okay. I have a bad habit that my preamble is a lot of times longer than the... So we're supposed to stop at 7:20. So today's verse is the first verse, we'll keep to our schedule, of the 9th chapter. So again, the 6 chapters are preliminary knowledge, and just like a sandwich, chapters 7 through 12 are the inner essence of Bhagavad Gita, where topics of pure devotion to Krishna are described, and there's this chapter, in the most confidential knowledge. Just like you meet somebody, you're not going to reveal everything, get to know you, okay. We have different relationships. You go to the bank and you deposit money. Is there anything else I can help you with today? I'm having all these problems and, my heart. You're not going to tell that to the bank teller, right? For example. So the first 6 chapters and then the final 6 chapters, which are like reinforcement of what has been previously said, Krishna's carefully protecting the inner chapter, just like, an important person has bodyguards on either side. So, this is the most confidential knowledge. And we're beginning verse number 1. This Prabhupada chose in his public lectures and in the temple to the disciples and devotees. In Bhagavad Gita, this is one of the most quoted verses. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha idam tu te guyatamam patyaksyami anasuyave jnanam vijnana sahitam yajnatva mokshashe subat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, right? If someone is envious, jealous, antagonistic to you, are you going to reveal yourself? No. We're going to have a Knickerbocker, New York door. I even like this door. It looks like you got to turn the crank like you're in a medieval castle, And then where Radhanayaka's head is, you can actually, I think they took it out when they remodeled. You can get a big iron bar and put it there and then fix it to the. So even if they take a battering ram and want to knock down the door, they can't come in. Right? So because you were never envious of me, right? It's like, we have a doorman. What's your business here? Okay, I want to see such and such. They ring up. You got such and such down here. I didn't. Who is this? Yeah, send him up. So because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of all the miseries of material existence. Purport. As a devotee hears more and more about the Supreme Lord, he becomes enlightened. And the wonderful thing about transcendental literature, it doesn't matter. Oh, I already read this. You can hear it again and again. And you could be in practicing Krishna consciousness for decades, or you could be a brand new person. Krishna will speak in the heart of that person and accord what they need to hear, what they want to hear, what they're eligible to hear and understand. It's just simply miraculous. This hearing process is recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And now with, the smartphones and this and that, YouTube and this and that, for me, my eyes to squint, for so many hours, the books have been recorded, you can listen to them too. And people in the subway, I was in the subway, half of everybody walking by has these things in their ears, they're just oblivious. So I even sometimes I'll put earplugs because I don't want to hear, you're sitting there held hostage on the subway and people are talking. If you go to like Japan or other countries, no one will say a word out of like mannerly etiquette. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist here in New York City. There's so much to listen to, and at every step, as it's saying here, you'll become increasingly enlightened. The messages of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are full of potencies. And these potencies can be realized if topics regarding the Supreme Godhead are discussed amongst devotees. So that's why the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, for people interested in Krishna. There's so many different societies for people interested in different things. One person came to the temple the other day, and he kind of, he was thinking he was going to come and enlighten us. He had like musical instruments, and then he had to be told, if you come here, you have to come here submissively to hear our version of things. If you have your own thing that you want to present, then start your own place or do it with... This cannot be achieved by the association of mental speculators or academic scholars, for it is realized knowledge. The devotees are constantly engaged in the Supreme Lord's service. The Lord understands the mentality and sincerity of a particular living entity who is engaged in Krishna consciousness and gives him the intelligence to understand the science of Krishna in the association of devotees. Discussion of Krishna is very potent, and if a fortunate person has such association and tries to assimilate the knowledge, then he will surely make advancement towards spiritual realization. Lord Krishna, in order to encourage Arjuna to higher and higher elevation in his potent service, describes this 9th chapter for matters more confidential than any he has already discussed. The very beginning of Bhagavad Gita, the 1st chapter, is more or less an introduction to the rest of the book, and in the 2nd and 3rd chapters, the spiritual knowledge described is called confidential. Topics discussed in the 7th and 8th chapters are specifically related to devotional service, and because they bring enlightenment in Krishna consciousness, they are called more confidential. But the matters which are described in this 9th chapter deal with unalloyed pure devotion. Therefore, this is called the most confidential. One who is situated in the most confidential knowledge of Krishna is naturally transcendental. He therefore has no material pangs, although he is in the material world. You see such advanced personalities like Haridas Thakur, Jesus Christ, who were persecuted by vehement atheists and demoniac persons. He was able to tolerate that persecution and at the same time bestow the highest blessings upon everyone. That is the highest level of pure devotion in Vaishnavism. So he has no material pangs, although he's in the material world. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the nectar of devotion, the happiness of devotional service, it is said that although one who has a sincere desire to serve, to render loving service to the Supreme Lord is situated in the conditional state of material existence, meaning you're in the material body, he is to be considered liberated. It's called Jivan Mukta. even though in this body you're liberated. So a pure devotee can understand who is a pure devotee, or is it saying it takes one to know one? It's not I have a material body where we're all the same, equal, but there's unity and diversity simultaneously. Similarly, we shall find in the Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter that anyone who is engaged in that way is a liberated person. Another example to encourage us is given that devotional service at any stage, even the beginning stage, like a mango, an unripened fruit. You can't say it's not a mango, but it is unripe. So the beginning practitioner, if he just sticks to his practice, he is assured of perfection. Absolutely. Just is not to be bewildered by illusion to give it up. So therefore, to maintain enthusiasm at all times, this will allow your determination to never waver, but to increase more and more and more. And so sadhana is practice. Just like people go to work. I don't feel like going to work, but I have to. So we apply that responsibility. I might not feel like it today, but I have to do my sadhana. And Krishna will mark that. He'll recognize that. Krishna is testing us to see, just like he's not going to let you into his luxury penthouse apartment unless he knows that you're coming to add something to the experience. And you invite somebody to your house or into your, do they have, what's that saying, skin in the game? Are you here to enhance or are you here to subtract? Are you here on a scouting mission, see what I got? Well, maybe I could try to pilfer this or sneak that. Ain't going to happen in Krishna's realm. He's 100% cognizant. He doesn't have to hire a security firm. He doesn't need cameras. He's all-knowing. So we have to pass the test of Krishna, and then we are admitted in. Now this first verse has specific significance. The words idam jnanam, this knowledge, refer to pure devotional service, which consists of 9 different activities: hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshiping, praying. You can express yourself. Krishna is a person. My dear Lord, Prabhupada said, you can say, my dear Lord, this is the problem. Kindly help me. And Krishna will answer. He will help you. No doubt. So this is a very important aspect. Revealing one's mind, praying, following orders, maintaining friendship. It actually comes to the point where Krishna becomes your, what is that? BFL, best friend for life. BFEL, best friend for eternal life. And he'll never go away. He'll never turn like a chameleon into something else. He won't go breaking your heart. Maintaining friendship and giving everything. By the practice of these 9 elements of devotional service, one is elevated to spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness. When one's heart is thus cleared of material contamination, one can understand the science of Krishna. Simply to understand that a living entity is not material is not sufficient. There may be the beginning of spiritual realization, but one should recognize the difference between activities of the body and the spiritual activities of one who understands that he is not the body. Just like we understand that I'm not the A train or the F train. No, the A train is stopping on the F line tonight, this week. You're a passenger in the train. And when that train gets me to where I need to be, I'm off this train and lickety-split as fast as I can get the heck out of here. That he is not the body. In the 7th chapter, we have already discussed the opulent potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his different energies, the inferior and superior natures, and all this material manifestation. Now in chapter 9, the glories of the Lord will be delineated. The Sanskrit word anasuyave in this verse is also very significant. Generally, the commentators, even if they are highly scholarly, are all envious of Krishna. So they say it's not to Krishna who we have to surrender, but the eternal, unborn, undying within, which is a completely meaningless statement. It's like, no, we don't have to make such and such, either one of you, individually happy. We just need to keep the concept of the person and just sort of like, blend it into the oneness of everyone else. Does that make any sense? So these are the impersonalist commentators. They don't accept that Krishna is a person. They can't understand, so therefore their envy, they wear a suit and tie and have a high position and a high title. You think an envious person, somebody yelling at you, and like curse words and just like a complete madness. But this is more subtle, more refined envy, which can fool people in general. Oh, they're doctorately decorated, they're boastfully bookish in their knowledge, but it's all useless. There's a term given to 4 types of impious people who never surrender Krishna, and it's Maya Prita Jnana, which literally means their knowledge is stolen by illusion. Highly scholarly, but they're all envious of Krishna. Even the most erudite scholars write on Bhagavad Gita very inaccurately. Prabhupada visited Geneva, Switzerland in 1974. I forget his name. He was French, but he spoke multi-languages. And he was renowned by the people of Europe, especially the young people, as a kind of like a mystic and a kind of, he was like really delving into spiritual knowledge. So he had been writing a book. He had actually gone to India and met members of the Gaudiya Math, Prabhupada's contemporary godbrothers. So he had been writing a book for 20 years, The Myth of Child Krishna. So Guru Gauranga Prabhu, his leading disciple there, he arranged for this person to meet Srila Prabhupada. And he said, well, I have his book here. Would you like to hear it? He said, you can, hum a few bars, just read. He just read like a couple of sentences or a paragraph or two. That's enough. So then the man came the next day, and he was a gentleman, he was cordial, and he said how he wrote the book, and said, yes, I have seen your book. And said, yes, I've been writing it for 20 years. Yes, for 20 years, but still there are mistakes. And the man was humbled, and then Prabhupada kind of dismantled his wrong conception. Their commentaries are useless. The commentaries given by devotees of the Lord are bona fide. No one can explain Bhagavad Gita or perfect knowledge of Krishna if he is envious. One who criticizes the character of Krishna without knowing him is a fool. So such commentaries should be very carefully avoided. For one who understands that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the pure and transcendental personality, these chapters will be very beneficial. Hare Krishna. So we have 1 minute to keep to the schedule. Would anyone like to ask a question or make a comment? I think we might end up being like a few minutes. Unless...
It's nice gathering today.
We have 5 minutes for questions.
All right, are there any questions or comments?
So you said about
Yeah, speak in a booming and auditorially spreading voice, slowly, so we can all hear and understand your question.
you spoke about enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm.
So how can we develop that thing?
Is there a nectar of instruction in the house, Bhakta Sasha? No. If somebody wants to pull it up real quick. Anyway, Utsahan nistyadaya tat karma pavartanat sango tyag zatobrite sadbir bhakti vinashyati, I believe. That there are 6 principles favorable to devotional service. You know them? You can recite them?
Enthusiasm, being enthusiastic, confident, patient, endeavor, and
Following in the footsteps of the predecessor devotees, acharyas.
acting according to regulated principles.
Avoiding the association of non-devotees.
Avoiding the association of non-devotees, and
You got it? No? Can you, quick draw McGraw. Let's go. You got it?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Being enthusiastic, endeavoring with confidence, being patient, acting according to regulative principles such as hearing, chanting, and remembering. Again, was it filled with potencies? Potencies are very colorful. It's not just energy, but it's like transcendental enlightenment. Just Prabhupada came here, it was LSD was the rage. And there was like a whole group of people. Timothy Leary had an ashram in Monroe, no, not Monroe, Millbrook, off the Taconic Parkway, I think in Putnam County. And they said, well, you haven't taken LSD. How do you know what it's like, And Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness, the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness is like a room full of LSD. But the thing is that you cannot understand it unless you are actually doing it. It's like I can give you a jar of honey. You could see the honey, but unless you open the jar, put the spoon in, take the spoon out, and put it in your mouth, just the sight of the honey, you can't taste it.
Right.
Abandoning the association of non-devotees, and 6, following in the footsteps of the... These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Devotional service is not a matter of sentimental speculation or imaginative ecstasy. Its substance is practical activity. Uttam Bhakti, or unalloyed devotion unto the Lord, involves the rendering of devotional service in a way that is favorable to the Lord. This devotional service should be free from any extraneous motive and devoid of fruitive karma, impersonal jnana, and all other selfish desires. So this is very nice. So as far as enthusiasm, okay. Without enthusiasm, one cannot be successful. Even in the material world, one has to be very enthusiastic in the particular field of activity in order to become successful. Right? If you're a little mopey and got a frown and, and like, I don't want to. But if you're like, wow, this is the greatest thing, and, actually, devotees in Europe, they were distributing Prabhupada's books, and they thought, well, maybe if we go to like a professional advertiser or marketer, then he could give us some pointers and tips. So they went to some firm, and and they actually came out and watched the devotees speaking to people in public, and the guy was an honest guy and said, listen, you are doing everything you possibly can. You wouldn't be out here with the shaved head and the dhoti and the paint on your face unless you really believed in what you're doing. They're not buying what you're selling, they're buying you. I mean, I could market you this package, you're going to pay a lot of money, but it's not going to help you anymore because you got the enthusiasm. I don't know where you get it from. Krishna is pure enthusiasm, unlimited. It's like, the young people at the time, they had so much enthusiasm, Prabhupada he had a globe on his desk and he had like push pins, and he would send people who never been out of New York State, and they just send them to open a temple in London, in Paris, in Hamburg, Germany, and then even go to Bali, Indonesia, go to go to India, a place where you don't even speak the language, even just 2 or 3 people, and their enthusiasm was just so contagious that with no money, they just like Prabhupada, they just start. It's just literally unbelievable. You can't even explain it. That's spiritual enthusiasm. Going out, taking a risk for Krishna. The devotees who started in San Francisco and then went to London, one time the landlord was like threatening to evict them. They hadn't paid the rent in 2 months. You better have the money. And they did. How are we going to get this money? We're just chanting and we're doing our thing. And they're walking down the street and it's early in the morning, very foggy, and out of nowhere, like 75 or like $100 bills just came floating out of nowhere. This is a true story, and there's nobody around, and they're just grabbing all this money and say, man, this is Krishna, this is, we went out on a limb, we needed this. Krishna says, to those who meditate on my transcendental form, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So Prabhupada encouraged that. Take a risk for Krishna. I'm not saying that we should not pay the rent for 2 months and just think that money is going to float out of the sky,
Try not.
A student, businessman, artist, or anyone else who wants success in his line must be enthusiastic. Similarly, one has to be very enthusiastic in devotional service. Enthusiasm means action, but action for whom? The answer is that one should act for Krishna. So Krishna's happy. If Krishna's happiness becomes your happiness, you'll have unbounded enthusiasm. What is that? In the 6th chapter, one situated thus experiences happiness, unboundless happiness through transcendental senses. Upon gaining this, one understands there's no greater gain. Okay? Anything else?
Do you have any question?
Any
With all
questions?
your good notes?
Do you have questions?
Actually, Prabhupada said, I had no question for my spiritual master. I simply wanted to hear. But when pressed, the only question I would ask would be, how may I serve you? So just hearing is questions and answers, because you're so the process of hearing and chanting, like I said earlier, in accord with who you are as an individual, your particular sort of circumstances, your desires, your needs, the hearing process will address those issues. That is the miracle of hearing and chanting. I'm just saying, according to my realization and reading, I don't know all of you individually what you're going through, but we're presenting this as it is, and that Krishna, so it's like we're presenting Krishna's message and Krishna can do his magic. That is my service, and that is my satisfaction to do that. And that is a secret between you and Krishna.
Just a quick question. Could you expand a little bit more on mukti, bhukti, and siddha?
Bhukti, 3 necessities of life. You need material satisfaction of the senses, which means proper living in this world. I would say nobody should be homeless, nobody should be lonely, nobody should be mentally ill. And according with Lord Ramachandra, it was such a spiritual kingdom, there was not even death for those who did not want it. Or you could, great personalities, they can prolong their life and leave this world at the time that they choose.
That's mukti.
Bhukti, mukti, liberation. So why are we living this life? Why are we going through all the motions, It's kind of like you go to school. What's the goal of going to school? To graduate. People say, do you believe in reincarnation? I say, do you believe in getting left back in school? Well, I mean, it's a reality, but it's undesirable. So mukti. Do you want to repeat the process of birth, death, disease, and old age? You want to be packed in a womb for 9 months? And these days where people don't have an idea of when life begins, you could be aborted in the womb. Or what type of situation are you going to be born into? Are you going to have a proper mother and father? Are you going to be psychologically harmed for the rest of your life because of neglect and abuse? These are all risks in this age of Kali Yuga. So we want to pass the test and we want to graduate. Do you want to go back and repeat? What is this old guy still in high school for? Retard, they make fun of you,
Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master said, this material world is like a bathroom, toilet room. You do your business and get out. You don't linger there. He also said, this material world is not a fit place for a lady or a gentleman, isn't it? You're practically forced to be political and diplomatic in certain circumstances just to survive. and ultimately prema, our desire for love. It can't be satisfied on the temporal material platform. It has to be satisfied on the eternal spiritual platform. People write all types of songs, love not fade away, and I'll love you forever. Why? It's not possible in this material world, in this material body, because the soul is yearning and looking for that. So ordinary, two people get together, they love each other. Without love in the game, the dream will never come true. You can withstand even the marriage vows to have and to hold in sickness and in health and in whatever's condition. And then the caveat there, you can erase that into a spiritual love till death do us part. It's like you can have, but at the time of John Lennon and Yoko Ono, they hosted Prabhupada in his estate, Tittenhurst, which was formerly in the possession of the Cadbury Chocolate Factory, September through late October 1969. And they came to Prabhupada, and you are a great mystic and a great spiritually potent devotee. Please arrange that we can be eternally together in this relationship of husband and wife. And Prabhupada frankly told them, that's just not possible. You're together in this life, in this relationship, but you each have to go your separate way based on your individual karma and desires. They didn't like that answer. Anything else? Should we stop and move on to the next?
I think we can do kirtan.
Okay. Thank you very much. Shrimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Haribo. More kirtan? Is that the next thing?
So, Hare Krishna, everyone. So we're going to do kirtan for maybe 15 minutes or so, roughly. And then we're going to have a nice vegetarian feast for everyone. So we'll be enjoying it, and you can stay with us for that.
Do you want to be alone?
No, carpet is fine.
Okay. What?
I'm not very good, so if you want like rocking cartels or whatever, it'd be pretty simple.
It's okay. So you just need to keep the beat for the Prabhu, and he should see you.
Maybe sit
So
here.
maybe you should put closer to him.
Maybe closer.
That's usually what he likes.
He's gonna play. He's gonna play cartels.
He will play
You want him to
karatals.
sit next to you? Yeah. Over there.
You're the only one who came from Ireland.
Me and Narayan.
Raya, are you a Madonna player?
No, I
Where are you from?
don't. ISKCON Harrisburg.
Oh, Harrisburg.
Rinanga player from New York today. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, everybody one more. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Gauranga.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Everybody together. Hare Rama Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Jai Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai Rama.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Jai.
The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, nicely hearing and chanting the Lord's divine name, fame, form, qualities, and eternal pastimes. In this way, one will reside in Goloka Vrindavan Dham and serve and be in association with the Lord's beloved devotees. This is the essence of all instruction in devotional service. There's places you can be, like Sri Vrindavan Dham, where since 1986, this October will complete 40 years, 24 hours a day, round the clock, from 1 to 4 in the morning. These are the shifts. 8 time periods in 3-hour chapters. 1 to 4 in the morning, 4 to 7, 7 to 10 in the morning, 10 to 1 in the afternoon, 1 to 4 in the afternoon, 4 to 7 in the afternoon, 7 to 10 in the evening, and completing 10 to 1 at night. Team effort, 40 years. Wow. Hare Krishna.